Here we are in our custom zero homepage, going into the new company file we started up in a prior presentation, that being Get Great Guitars. Continuing on with our process of entering beginning balances as well as setting up our file to make the normal data input and the normal accounting cycle as easy as possible. Jumping over onto our beginning balances, these are the items that we're adding into our system as of the end of last year. We're going to say December 31st, 2022, so we can start the new data input for the current year going forward in 2023 of January. We're starting off with some of the more difficult accounts to be entering. Instead of entering just one big journal entry, recognizing that some accounts have more needs and therefore we're entering them one at a time. The other side going to an equity account, which we will then adjust at the end of the process, and it should all work out. All right, so now we're going on to the accounts payable. Like the accounts receivable, the accounts payable is an accrual type of account, so it's a deviation from a cash-based type of system, and it has a subledger, not by customer now, but by vendor that we need to be tracking. So a quick look on our flowchart. If we jump on over to our flowchart, this is the QuickBooks desktop flowchart, but it's a good just flowchart to see how the process flows here. We're on the money going out cycle now, the accounts payable cycle or the expenses cycle. And the easiest thing for a lot of small businesses on the expense side is just to pay things as they become due, possibly with the bank feeds. And in that system, it's you don't have accounts payable. You would just basically be paying things, and as they come through the bank feeds, then you would be recording them to the applicable, usually expense account at that time. Now, sometimes when you get into more money management strategies, then you would like to be setting up your payments so that you can pay them as late as possible. This becomes more and more important as the companies get larger, because that small time difference between like 15 days of paying today or later becomes significant when you have either large dollar amount transactions or transactions that just a lot of transactions, and therefore using the accounts payable and managing exactly when you're going to pay them towards the end of the payment process becomes more valuable. So with our beginning balances, then we're going to say that we have an accounts payable on the books. So like with the customer side of things, we're going to add the contact, this time basically a vendor contact, someone that we are going to have to owe money to. And we want to put it on the books not just as a journal entry, because 1-0 probably wouldn't let us do that without a vendor or contact, because it needs to tie us to who we owe the money to so it can make the subledger, and 2, because I want it on the books in a format that I can do my normal accounting process going from this point forward, meaning I would like it in there basically as a bill so that I can show it as the bill being paid. That's the normal accounting process when we have an accounts payable. So let's go on in and say, well, how could we do that on over here? Let's open up a couple tabs to put our reports in first off, and then we'll do the new stuff. So let's right click on the tab up top and duplicate it. I'm going to put 2 new tabs and open our reports. This will be the process that we'll do most of the time every time we go into the system as we go forward. Back to the middle tab, and let's open up our accounting reports because we want to see the financial statements as we do stuff. I'm going to open up the balance sheet, and then as that's thinking, I'll go to the right and then accounting, and this time open up the income statement, otherwise known as the profit and loss statement. And then let's adjust the date range. Now notice in 2023, there's no activity, but we might see activity in 2022, last fiscal year, as we did with the income side of things. And that's okay because it'll roll into the balance sheet. And so we'll see that as we do the data input. Back to the prior tab, December 31st, 2022. This is what we have thus far. Now we're going to be putting on this accounts payable. Let's go ahead and just mark off the ones we've done, shall we? I could say, let's make that one is boom, done, shakalaka, that one. And now we're working on the accounts payable. That's the one we're on right now. So 15,000, we're going to say it's Epiphone is our vendor. Now this time we only have one vendor, so I'm not going to do an import. We'll just add the one contact. So I'm going to go to the first tab. We're going to go to the contacts, and we can look at all contacts or the suppliers. And then we can add a new contact. So when we add the new contact, just like we saw with the customers, we got a lot of contact information, noting that a lot of times when a company deals with customers, they want like a lot of information because you might be dealing with customers in a more personal way, and therefore you want a lot of contact information and whatnot if you're doing repeat business with a customer. Although some other businesses, they don't do a lot of business with any one particular customer. They have one-off transactions. Like if you have a Shopify store, for example, you probably don't have a lot of personal contact with the customers. You're just selling, you're trying to sell a lot of merchandise or something like that. And then on the vendor side of things, the people that you're paying, oftentimes most of your vendors, you have very minimal information you need from them in your accounting system. You pay the utility bill. You don't need much from them to pay the utility bill. I just need to know who to pay, how I'm going to pay it. But you might have some vendors that you do a lot more interactions with. It's on a more personal level, such as if you buy inventory, your primary vendors that you buy inventory from, for example. So then you might want more detail as you enter the information into your new contact information. Now note that I could import it just like we did before. If we had a lot of contacts, we can import it just like we did with the customers, and we would download the template and populate the template in a similar fashion. Also, just realize that if you're moving from another accounting system into the current accounting system, it might be the case that you have a whole lot of contacts in a prior accounting system because everybody that you have paid has a contact with it. But you might not want to import all of the different contacts or vendors because you may not need them all, and it's pretty easy to populate the vendors as you do transactions. A lot of small businesses, when they have bank feeds, when you first start doing the bank feeds, that'll often help you to facilitate the contacts that you're going to set up. And it might be a good opportunity if you're starting a new accounting system to try to make those contacts as custom and current as you can. And so it might actually be easier not to pull in all of the other contacts, and just as you do financial transactions and pay bills, you add those particular contacts. So just, keep that in mind, because there could be contacts is one area on the vendor side and the customer side, depending on your circumstances, that could get bloated and have more information than you need. You could go in there and clean them up. In any case, we have our one